If we had the luxury of time, we could wait for that generational transfer of power to take place. But we don't have the luxury of time.
Is it because people don't perceive it as an actual threat? Human nature is to just kind of go, yeah, whatever, I don't see it. People were, I mean, the Patriot Act was passed under the fear of the prospect of terrorism, and even though a single significant event happened, there's more fear, changed laws, but people don't do that now.
Yeah, human nature is what we have inherited from our ancestors, and because they survive specific kinds of threats, we're hardwired to respond to the same threats they survived. If a rattlesnake slithered across this floor, I guarantee you several rows would clear out almost automatically.
This audience is badass, man.
They'd stomp it.
They would stomp it. They would suck the venom to be stronger.
Fair enough, but many people would react.
Fair enough.
And other humans with weapons, you know, we've survived that. Claws, spiders, fires. We respond automatically to those things. If we look forward at what can happen if we don't act, we will feel the moral responsibility we have to those who come after us. They're going to look back and ask us one of two questions, either what were you thinking or how did you solve it? I want them to ask that second question, and we have to answer it with our deeds, not just with our words.
You were in public office for a long time, and you clearly talked about this, but the change that came afterwards versus during, I wondered how that resonated with you.
Well, it's an interesting question. I don't think there's any position with as much potential for to bring about change as the position of President of the United States.
Which you had for 2 minutes.
Well, that's an old story. But I tried to get it for longer than that, but that wasn't to be. So I've tried to make a difference in other ways. And one of the advantages of being outside the political process is that you do have the luxury to focus very intensely on one thing, if that's what you choose to do, and that's what I've chosen to do. And I really dug in, started giving my slideshow much more frequently, upgrading it. I finally got it off the Kodak carousels. When I went back after well, I'll tell you, the first time I gave the slideshow after I left the White House was a couple months later, and I got the carousels out. And the slides were, I put them in myself because, you know, I had no large staff or anything at that point.
You were practically unemployed, right?
I know. Only, you know, only the tattered remnants of my imperial court. But I put the slides in, and I went to Middle Tennessee State University where I was teaching, and I was very excited. And the slides were all backwards.
Like, you've addressed world leaders, you know, you're the vice president, you have a moment where you're looking going, I feel like Cliff from Cheers here. Like, I can't, something's going wrong.
Well, that was the point at which my wife said, you know, this is the 21st century, we have computers now. And
did she say, Al, you invented the internet? You could have,
Good one, George. Anyway, when I switched to computer graphics, it began to improve dramatically, and I went out and searched for a lot of new images, and the more I showed it, the better I got at it, and I reordered it and everything. And then when some friends in Los Angeles said, you know, you ought to make a movie out of this, I said, no way, that's a terrible idea. But they convinced me that it would be a good idea, and I'm glad they did, because that turned out to be a way of delivering the message to far more people than, you know, when I go around and show it to a few hundred people at a time, it's a slow process, but the movie was a good way to get the message out there.
Much started in, after Inconvenient Truth, the rise of the funny Al Gore. You know, the 30 Rock thing was hilarious when you did the, there's a whale. There's a whale suffering. Getting to that place, was that always in you, or did you have to find that person?
Well, I benefit from low expectations. And
you have a very funny daughter. Your daughter's a very funny comedy writer, isn't she?
Yeah, my second oldest daughter is a professional comedy writer. She's my comedy ninja. When I am invited on one of those shows, I realize the distance between the zeitgeist of the younger generation and my sensibilities, and she reassures me, Dad, it's okay, it's okay. Right. And then she'll tweak the script to make it okay.
That's a smart move, actually.
Yeah. No, I've enjoyed that a lot, and I've done a number of those shows. And
Former Prime Minister Canada Joe Clark was on the show, and I was talking to him about what happened when he left office and just the transition for him personally. He said a few months after he left office, he had lost his voice. And he went to the doctors, and the doctor said, have you undergone any significant event or trauma? And he's like, no, I don't think so, right? It didn't register. The doctor said, maybe a couple months ago, something happened. And then he's like, oh, yeah. And then there was a physical effect, and there was an emotional and an intellectual effect. And I know that you've done a really good job, and most politicians do when they leave office of kind of carrying on. But just on a sheer human level, those months afterwards and finding your way back to the slideshow, what was that like for you?
It's often the case that when we suffer loss or we go through some difficult experience, if we're lucky, we find it to be an opportunity for growth, and that was certainly the case for me.
But to get to the point where it looks like an opportunity, you have to stare at walls that don't look like opportunity.
Winston Churchill was once told after he lost a race early in his career by a friend who told him the loss was a blessing in disguise, and he said, damn good disguise.
It absolutely got him. You mentioned your wife. I was thinking that, getting ready for the interview, that long before I heard of you, I heard of your wife because of the Tipper Gore and the parental advisory stickers and all that. What has she thought of this? And do you hear her talk? I mean, she was a drummer in an all-girl band, wasn't she?
Yeah.
People don't know that about her.
Yeah, that's right. And I often have the experience now of people who come up who tell me that they were opposed to what she was doing. Of course, it was widely misunderstood what she was doing. She didn't call for censorship of any kind, but just for the record companies to themselves take responsibility for telling parents if in their judgment there was material that might not be appropriate for young children. But I often have the experience of people who were opposed to her then who now have kids of their own who are saying, she was right. I've changed my mind.
Okay, I'm going to throw out a bunch of thoughts to Vice President Al Gore and see how quickly he can respond. More with the VP after this.
We're moving! Oh. We're moving! There's a down button. I didn't press the down button. Oh, it's going to be great. Yeah! I'm out of here. Scott, wait. Scott, listen, everybody, I know it was a weird experience to be in there, but it's going to be a good memory someday, I swear.
Pete's right, guys.
All right.
You know, we're going to laugh about this one day. Happy New Year, Scott.
Can we go now? Scott?
Doors,
No. It's okay. We'll go back. Let's take the John Street exit, okay?
Oh, come on.
No!
No!